Welcome to our Glory Globe TV. Here's a breaking analysis news. Yes, on last 7 October 2023, President Putin was given an unusual birthday present from an unexpected source. The Hamas attack on Israel and the outbreak of war in Gaza was his perfect 71st birthday gift in every sense. For one thing, the war in Ukraine departed from the front pages of international media, and the hits of the United States and the West turned once again towards the Middle East. Consequently, the Ukrainian conflict looked like a limited war when compared to Israel's war in Gaza, which has the risks of escalating and expanding in the region. Further, President Putin was secure in the fact that the aid to Ukraine as far as arms, ammunition and Western deterrence by deploying troops in the dignity of Ukraine would now stand divided between the Kremlin and Israel. Cause finally, the brutality of Hamas and its mirror image shown by Israel's retaliation have paled the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Prior to 7 October, the majority view of Western analysis seemed to be that the stalemate was considered to be a pessimistic viewpoint as far as Ukraine was concerned. The West had invested the Ukrainian defense forces with state of the art weapon systems, and they were hoping that the counter-offensive would be successful. The European Union had done what was unthinkable before the invasion. They supplied lethal equipment and delivered it to a non-member state at war. Aid to Ukraine was the buzzword, and there are frequent trips by President Zelensky to various capitals demanding assistance to fight the war. There was much speculation and optimism regarding the Ukrainian counter-offensive given their initial successes in the two operations they had conducted in 2022, and due to the fact that their troops had been armed and trained by the West. However, the Leopards and Challengers failed to make any breakthrough across the obstacle line which the Russians had erected in the winter months. The hope was that Ukrainian guns would result in the Russians being forced to negotiate for a resolution to the conflict, but this was an illusion. The flood of Western support, it was believed, would enable Ukraine to evict the Russians. The German Leopard 2, British Challenger 2 and American Mr. Abrams tanks and M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles promised were meant to decisively shift the odds. But the Ukrainian military needed many more of these combat vehicles. Greater numbers of HIMARS, high mobility artillery rocket systems, rounds and long range missiles, and thousands of artillery shells. It also needed greater engineering, amphibious and logistics capacity to penetrate 45 Russian defensive lines, clear hundreds of miles of occupied territory, and conduct amphibious and ground assaults to cross into Crimea and dislodge Russian forces. Most importantly, it needed air power to give it an air attack capability. Above all, it needed trained manpower to handle these complex systems and integrate them. This was clearly lacking. Beyond the report, Glory Globe TV, Delhi.